but that was just an intro section. So yeah, fair trade is all about trying to make the journey from the grower to your fridge as fair and sustainable as possible. So there's kind of something to note that we're like that fair trade is all about tackling is that poverty is at the root of most sustainable issues of sustainability. Those are a few examples there. And so even though we kind of like we depend heavily on all of the people in rural areas in the global south for the vast majority of our food, they still a lot of people still work on less than $1 a day, and that's not a living wage for most people. So like that kind of leads to all this whole host of other problems. So yeah, it's kind of stark when you look at it. Not going ahead to the next slide. It's not moving for you guys either, right?
No.
Yeah, no, it's not moving at all. It's stuck.
Has it actually frozen? Has it legit frozen? Come on. Try go back into it. Okay. So yeah, and so at the moment, I don't know if you guys seen, but a Fairtrade fortnight, some of you might have seen some of the articles that we were associated with putting out in different publications. A lot of stuff about the fact that well, part of the campaign was this whole thing called the future of food, and so we did a mural in Dublin City Centre, which was kind of like an astronaut. I don't actually have a picture of that mural in the slide, unfortunately, but the whole idea is that a lot of the products that we take for granted are actually threatened with they're severely threatened with massive shortages and or extinction if we don't kind of change how we do the whole trading thing and support farmers in the global south to produce stuff sustainably and fairly. So those are just a few facts and figures. I won't go through them all, but like just the like what I was saying there, a very kind of stark one is that by 2050, in fact, up to half of the world's land currently used to farm coffee may be unusable. I mean, a lot of people drink coffee. I drink coffee. This is kind of it's pretty fundamental part of our lives. So it's quite pretty stark. And then so like this is the case in a lot of places around the world. Like examples you see there. This one is just kind of about the climate clock. Lots of stuff about inequality we already know, but what I think is really interesting is that map at the top right, greenhouse gas emissions by country, and you kind of see that massively inflated Europe and America, and then kind of South America and Africa are barely even exist on the map, which is quite it's really interesting kind of way to view things. Like we're the ones up there in Europe buying stuff, and so these are kind of just some reasons that fair trade exists: human rights, food supply, education, and now we're focusing a lot more on environmental health and sustainability. But how does it work? So very basic interventions that fair trade facilitates are the minimum price, which is it's actually that needs to be changed. It's $1.80 per pound. I think that's talking about coffee. It's now gone up to $2.40. And then there's a guaranteed premium payment, which goes on top of the guaranteed minimum price, and that premium goes into the projects of cooperatives in the global south that Innocent is going to talk about more later. Another major thing is that the cooperatives are 50% producer owned, so we're not telling people what to do. People are making the decisions for themselves. And then so the independent audits that are done that I'm going to go through in the next screen are very, very rigorous, and they tackle these 3 pillars. Sorry, somebody's kind of not on mute there, and I'm getting a bit of hissing or something. Can people mute themselves? But anyways, this is the kind of the structure of the Fairtrade International organization. So it's pretty complex, and it's taken decades to develop, but that's where we're at. So it's very comprehensive. So you got the producer networks on the left, fair trade organizations on the right. So like, fair trade organizations aren't actually doing a lot of the selling and stuff. They're kind of just promoting stuff through the fair trade label and ensuring that it's produced in a way that is on fair trade terms, which is the stuff that I was talking about in the previous slide, the kind of the interventions, the premium price, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's a massive kind of coordinated effort. And then you'll see at the bottom, the kind of this FlowCert is an external body that does the audits. And it's very comprehensive. And so like, it's Fairtrade is essentially like, of all the eco labels, it's the kind of the pinnacle in terms of maturity and, extensiveness. And it covers so many different areas. Like it covers human rights, environment, gender, quality, all these different things. So it is really a terrific thing. So these are some of the, just some examples of some of the co-ops, in Colombia, and a quote there that like, it's about the members. And so like, they're human beings, just like all of us, like any of us. This is kind of the network map of our major partners and associates. So yeah, once again, you can kind of see it's a pretty complex web. It's a supply web, not really a supply chain, a supply web. But I'll draw your attention there to the fair trade towns and fair trade at work, colleges, schools. All of these are things that ambassadors might have links with, might be able to kind of, push fair trade through. You see on the top left there, this fair trade communities. So that's kind of towns and villages, cities around Ireland that commit to having, fair trade events and doing certain things, like their local area councils commit to having fair trade products in their canteens, that kind of thing. That's a bit about the history of fair trade. I won't go through it all, but it is pretty interesting. So it's been around for a while. Emerged in the 50s and 60s. Key stuff there is it used to be called alternative trade. I think we can all agree fair trade is a bit more catchy. And then you had the main things are the European Fair Trade Association that was founded in Europe in 1987. And then at the bottom there, you'll see that in Ireland, we've had Fair Trade Ireland since 1996. And we've been doing Fair Trade Fortnight, which I spoke about earlier, our big flagship awareness raising event since 2003. So we've been going for a while. We also have links to Coalition 2030, and there's a lot of the kind of SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, built into Fairtrade's work. So, these are all the ones that are, that are targeted by the Fairtrade model. So you can kind of see it's like, we're hitting a lot of areas. So pretty comprehensive. And then also you'll kind of see you guys are part of the solution. Our hashtag there, be fair, do sustainable. If you take photos at ePay, that's the hashtag to put. Yeah, and so these are kind of just some of the things, like some examples of ways that buying fair trade and promoting fair trade has an impact. So in Latin America, there's that's one of my favorite ones, is the Caribbean tree planting drive in 2022. 300,000 trees were planted. Other stuff around crop diversity and around clean water, sanitation. Agroforestry is a very cool kind of approach to farming that is like, fair trade would facilitate trainings for people, so it's kind of like, it is very, very impactful. You can kind of see there in the background, this is kind of in an area that there might have been drought, but the farm is healthy and thriving because of these principles that farmers are trained in. And crop diversity is another of those kind of technical fixes. And this one I think is really nice because it's just like Fairtrade Roses is a big kind of campaign drive at the moment. And yeah, just the thing to note in this picture is just that the people working and spraying the roses have protective gear. You know, they have gloves and they have hats and they have protective equipment for when they're spraying, so that you know they're kept safe from chemicals or whatever it might be. And so like you know that's something that fair trade allows the provision of that it's just not standard across in other farms. You know, so those are some of the ways that are you know the impact is very significant. What do ambassadors do? So you know you will have all read about it, I'm sure, at this stage. But kind of some of the key things, key perks are you get to upskill, organize events and promote events. You know, such as we're doing at the picnic. Fair trade at work is a pretty cool one. So like encourage fair trade. It's very simple. Just encourage your workplace to use fair trade coffee in the canteen. Yeah, having fun. It is good crack, always is. And then the whole thing about sharing. So there's, you know, we ask people to, you know, if they are on social media to, you know, help to build the momentum, you know, by sharing and spreading the message. So that's just the same. And then this is so youth ambassadors, just like this, just a great quote from our man Felix Teta. Thanks for being with us. That there's no sustainability if farmers remain in poverty. Therefore, farmers' incomes and most importantly, pricing are important for us to achieve living incomes. It's you know, it's perfectly fair. It's so fair, you know, and pretty simple. So yeah, and then this kind of like question of who is your farmer that we asked. We had a campaign a few years ago. Who's your farmer? Like, if you ate today, thank a farmer. How do you like? Do you actually know the person who produced the food, or do you have any idea who that person is who produced the food that you're eating right now? So if you ate today, thank a farmer. So these are the guys who visited us for Fairtrade Fortnight. We had Daniel from Honduras, coffee farmer, and we have Innocent with us, tea farmer from Uganda. Legend. Okay.
Oh, now we can go. Yeah. So how do we do it? We need to, fair trade ambassadors can tell stories, can pass their message through telling stories, engaging young people to speak out in public, share your life experience, like me, how I share my life experience as a farmer, the problems that we really face on the farm that can hinder progress of farming in our area. Engage local leaders, of course. Some issues are structural and legal, and they can actually be addressed by government. So you need to talk to them. Talk about social injustices that are within your community. Of course, advocate for desirable change you wish to occur, and people must know what changes you really require. Who are the stakeholders in this engagement? You need to speak to buyers, speak to researchers so that they can add more power, more information on your advocacy. Reach out to government leaders because they are key in this issue of addressing these issues. Reach out to communities, community leaders, activists. You can also reach out to your fellow activists. Do activism can be one way of doing spreading out the message. Advocacy is one of the tools that ambassadors should use in this fight against injustices, social injustices, climate injustices. Advocacy is doing something to support, recommend, and implement your idea that you need, you care about. It makes voices heard. As an ambassador, your voice must be heard and should be clear. What are you communicating? Which policies do you want the government to address that are impediments to prosperity of your community? And your issue must be addressing social right injustices. Fair trade ambassadors, the fair trade is a global recognized product certification scheme, as Mr. Aidan said. for smallholders and farmers, creating decent and sustainable livelihood for farmers. As a farmer, I need really to have the best pay. I need to be appreciated for the effort I do. As a worker, I need to have a just pay that can really give me a better living. Advocacy was introduced by Fairtrade in 2021 and is a global strategy for fair trade to appraise the young people to advocate for global changes and to have an impact in the fair trade business. Fairtrade has a commitment in promoting the 4 pillars of this strategy, enhancing grassroots movement, policy development, building partnerships and leadership. Like at our producer level, we need to have the youth involved, let them get involved in the leadership, because like tea and coffee has been predominantly by elder people whom we think anytime can create a disconnect within the supply chain. So the young people must come in leadership, must come into farming and have the touch of their business. Why advocacy in this global north at this time? Why should people in Europe, America, and others go for advocacy as fair trade youth ambassadors in Ireland? Because the smallholder farmers like me, there has been safety of our crops. Climate change issues are on rise, and this could create a lot of instability of the supply chain. We have no transport. It is very hard to connect to our transport, our farms. They are not accessible. We have no markets. Currently, the prices of tea have gone down from 2.5 USD to 90 cents. The fertilizer is not available. We have no fertilizers to really do our farming. What is the importance of this advocacy in the whole sense as fair trade ambassadors? The fair trade ambassador directly gets involved in championing the objectives and the aims of fair trade. If you are doing advocacy for fair trade, you must know what is fair trade family, what is its aim, what is its way of doing things, what is the strategy of achieving these objectives. Of course, you must be at the center of the fair trade system. You must know how these premiums gotten from the producer, how they are used, how they are impactful, and you must really know that these farmers are really in need of it. Advocacy and more to these ambassadors, you must train, you must have the skills in the agricultural supply chain so that you can really be able to communicate. Of course, we are living in the world. We have the community that we come from and we have to influence to know what we are aiming at. So we have active partnership in active citizenship and passive citizenship. You must know that in the community, there are some people who will listen, who will move with what you think is right, and there are some people who will not actually join you in advocating for this cause that you require. Actions for advocacy. How do you do it? The end result of all of this discussion is about the action for advocacy. You must educate, fundraise, interact with decision makers, keep the conversation going, because people must know where you have reached within your advocacy. You should still remain in touch with people who are following you, who are part of you, and you should share updates, keep them moving. You should motivate them and inspire them so that they get in touch with what you're delivering. Policy engagement, as I said, there are some issues that need to be addressed by the policy. What is the policy aligned with your issue? If you are talking about climate change, climate injustice, which policies within your national council, within your local governments aligns to the climate change issues. Are these policies easily understood by your community? If not, can you partner with others to see that the community better gets they better understand the issues you are communicating? You must build, of course, momentum of your advocacy. Why should other people follow you? Why should people see that what you're communicating is an issue and affects the community? How do people make it better for others to join you? You must recognize the power of storytelling. Like me as a producer, as a farmer, I should be able to engage and attract people to join me. I emotionally present my case so that people will say, hey, really Innocent has a case to present, we should join him, and call for action. As we are in a climate crisis, what action are you telling people? What are issues that are affecting the global world? Taking personal action, you must encourage other people to join you by creating advocacy campaigns like what you're doing today, engaging policymakers, attending protests, hosting discussions to discuss with people concerned, volunteering, like the Fairtrade fortnight, educating voters, people to know what is their rights. How to use technology. Of course, we are blessed that we have technology. How do you use the social media platforms to advocate or to share your message with others? Accessibility of internet. You have the laptop, you have the gadgets in your hands. You can easily communicate within the country and beyond. These gadgets are easy to really to have and really communicate and cause impact. Digital platforms, these are Instagrams. You can share your message on Instagrams, YouTube, Facebook. You can create like webinars like which we have today. Social media, creating listening mails, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and others. The issue of fair trade premiums. I wanted to share with you what impact has premiums really done to Kayonza as a producer. We have premiums from the sales of tea. It has been able to construct schools, maternity ward, made access roads, provision of food security, planting materials. Uganda is well known to be the pearl of Africa because of its good climate, but because of the changing climate, we are now insecure. We are food insecure. So through fair trade, we have been able to tackle these issues of food insecurity. But the best to my best is the children, the double orphans who have lost their parents, have hope that they can really extend their education. This is what we are using these premiums for. Of course, this is the situation, how it was. This is the impact at Kayonza. This is how the situation was in 1998 when Kayonza was not certified under fair trade and we had no premiums. But after getting premiums, we made a lot of interventions. As you can see, we constructed some schools where our children can access education. This is one of the secondary schools, because for us, we have primary, secondary, and universities. So we provided classrooms to one of our secondary school in the community. We supplied mattresses to our health units where our mother can give birth. Because in Africa, it is not easy to give birth. That's why they produce a lot of kids, having a spare of some kids to die because of a lot of diseases that we have. This is one of the health units at our factory that our workers and farmers within the community can. All of this is status of premium fund. This is one of the maternity wards also in the community. This is connecting farmers and our processing area. These are culverts where we connect the roads to our factory where we can have. These are sanitary facilities where we have built some. We have provided clean water for farmers. It is not easy for Africa to have clean water. Currently, we are standing at 68% of clean water in the country, and Fairtrade has been part of this global challenge to provide clean water to the community. So, as ambassadors, Fairtrade ambassadors, I think when I came to Ireland this year in March, I was able to amplify the young people to really join this ambassadorship. And I'm very, very happy to say that I see that growing enthusiasm is there for us to appreciate as Fairtrade. And I believe Fairtrade Ireland can continue to support the Fairtrade ambassadors in Ireland to grow as many as possible, because they will probably influence consumption and create sustainability of fair trade products within the Irish community. Mr. Aidan and colleagues, I'm very grateful to once again to be part of your conversation today. In Uganda now it is at least almost midnight, but I said I have to come up and really share with my colleagues so that we can have this discussion going. I thank you, Mr. Aidan. Back to you.
Wow. It's midnight. Wow.
Yep.
I thought it was a little bit later, but